Welcome back. It was a crime which pushed everything else off the front pages. 3 men, all known criminals, found shot dead in the Essex countryside. It was a cold-blooded, professional killing. The victims had many enemies, but which one wanted them executed?
And welcome back to a new video on the Essex Boys case. As always, if you are enjoying the content, please do give the video a thumbs up. And if you're interested in the Essex Boys case, or simply true crime in general, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Detectives want to interview Kenneth Noye, the gangster convicted of the M25 road rage killing, about 2 other murders. Both are underworld-style executions linked to the drugs trade. In May 1996, John Marshall, a salvage operator and suspected drug dealer, disappeared after leaving his home in Essex to drive to a rendezvous in Kent, carrying £5,000. He was shot in the head and chest, probably the day before Stephen Cameron was stabbed to death by Noye on an interchange near Swanley, Kent. His body was found hidden under bales of straw in the back of his Range Rover on May the 22nd, 2 days after Noye fled Britain for a fugitive's life in Spain. Police want to speak to Noye about his relationship with Marshall, who is suspected of supplying him with false number plates for several vehicles. Both men were associates of the so-called Essex Boys, 3 drug dealers found shot dead in a Range Rover near Marshall's house in December 1995. Noye served a 14-year jail sentence for his role in laundering the gold that was stolen in the Brink's-Mat bullion robbery at Heathrow Airport in 1983. Police believe part of the proceeds was ploughed into drugs trafficking. Some of the money was used by Charlie Wilson, the great train robber, to finance drug shipments from Spain. Wilson was murdered at his Spanish villa in 1990 while Noye was still in prison. Police also want to interview Noye about the contract killing of Danny Rolfe, who was shot dead in the driveway of his home in Bromley, Kent 3 years ago while Noye was on the run in Spain. The following newspaper article is from the 30th of the 4th, 2000, with the headline, Mr. Big Behind Trail of Blood. The ecstasy death of Leah Betts on her 18th birthday sparked national outrage against the evil drug dealers who supplied the pills. Now we can reveal for the first time the anonymous Mr. Big behind that fatal consignment of drugs was ruthless Kenny Noye. Britain's #1 villain couldn't have cared less about the death of Leah, fun-loving daughter of an ex-policeman. But a few weeks later, the muscle-bound thugs who ran Noye's Essex drugs empire for him were blasted to death in a snow-covered country lane. Why? It wasn't because the dad of 2 Noye was upset about the death of an innocent girl young enough to be his daughter. The triple execution 5 years ago was simply carried out because police believe one of the gang had grasped on him. Noye was in prison for handling gold from the £26 million Brink's-Mat bullion robbery when he decided the way forward for his crime empire was the rapidly growing drugs business. A hulking 18-stone bodybuilder called Pat Tate, Noye's personal minder in Swellside prison on the Isle of Sheppey, persuaded him to invest £30,000 in a deal to import ecstasy. 3 months later, Tate handed his backer a £70,000 profit. This was the kind of deal that Noye liked. He supplied the finance and organisation, while the others did the dirty business of supplying the drug to thrill-seeking teenagers. When Noye got out of jail, he applied his greedy mind to making that business even more profitable, regardless of any innocent young lives that might be ruined. Ecstasy could be bought for as little as £2 a tablet in the Netherlands, where Noye still had contacts from his activity smelting down gold from the Brink's-Mat robbery. Each tablet was sold in the clubs of Britain for up to £20, a huge markup. Before Noye became involved, the chain from the Netherlands to the UK streets was complex, with the drugs often passing through up to 50 pairs of hands. But the cunning villain cut that down to just 5, and saw his profits leap. Noye rented a warehouse in London as a distribution centre for thugs like Tate and henchman Tony Tucker. Tate and Tucker then sold the ecstasy on to street pushers. But the batch they supplied to the pusher operating in Raquel's club in Basildon on the night Leah celebrated her birthday was double strength, and it cost Leah her life. 3 weeks after the national outcry over Leah's death, Tate, Tucker and fellow villain Craig Rolfe were lured to White House Farm near Rettendon Essex to inspect the landing site for a light plane due to bring in hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of ecstasy. Their host was another of Noye's old associates, 55-year-old Michael Steele. He met the three in a pub and climbed into the back of the Range Rover with Tate, who was so unsuspecting he hadn't brought the 9mm pistol he normally carried. But as the Range Rover turned into a lane off the A130, it had to stop at a closed gate where Steele's accomplice Jack Womes was hiding. Steele jumped out of the back door as Womes ran towards the vehicle, blasting away with an automatic shotgun. Only Tate had time to put his hands up and crouch down. Tucker and Rolfe were killed instantly, sat bolt upright with blood all over their faces and chests. After Womes reloaded, Steele took the gun and shot each man behind their ears just to make sure. Steele and Womes are now serving life, but police privately believe Noye, also doing life for Stephen Cameron's murder, commissioned the slaughter. But why did he wipe out his friends? Tate, like Noye, was not averse to giving information to the police to save his own skin. In the heat that followed Leah's death, was Noye's involvement one of the tidbits Tate offered the police? An Essex drug insider says, if it was, then Kenny would have gone bananas. The following newspaper article is from the 10th of the 2nd, 2000, with the headline, Supergrass has no regrets. Supergrass Darren Nichols, who helped to jail 2 men for the notorious Rettendon killings, says he has no regrets about testifying. Darren, who gave evidence that helped convict Jack Womes and Michael Steele of the killings of the 3 men in Workhouse Lane in Rettendon in December 1995, was given a new identity. Possibly the most significant informant since the era of the Cray twins and the subject of a new book about the killings, Darren says he felt his life was in danger from the 2 men. His story is told in a new book about the killings published today. He said, quote, I was of the firm belief that if they could do it to 3 people, they would carry on until they were caught. I am pleased they are not coming out. I hope they never come out, to be honest. I never felt good about being a witness against them. They were not really my friends. Well, one of them was, and one of them wasn't, but I had to. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Before Darren turned informant, one incident that worried him was the time Steele asked him to go flying and Womes turned up as well. Darren turned down the offer. Darren said, quote, I was scared of learning to parachute without one. He has adjusted to a new life, but still thinks driven to the same point in his life, he would have chosen to have turned to crime. He said, quote, I was going so far downhill, I felt so low about everything. It seemed to be the answer, a way of earning money. I tried to get jobs and couldn't get anywhere. Obviously I do regret it, but in all honesty, it was because of the situation I was in. If my life came to the same point, I'd probably do it all again. I'm lucky in some ways, but in some ways I'm not. I do think it's odds on that one day I'm going to walk into someone that I know. That's what worries me the most. The story of how Darren became to be involved with Womes and Steele is detailed in the new book, Blogs 19, The Story of the Essex Range Rover Triple Murders, by Tony Thompson, published by Warner Books. If you would like to learn more about the Range Rover murders, then click on the video in front of you now. You will also see the Essex Boys playlist, which has all of the videos concerning this case in one convenient folder. Many thanks for joining me for this video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.